all, I'm going to show you how to make a larger sized fancy lacy shells granny square. I'll link the first part in the description box. I'll link the description box. The first for a 4-inch size below. I just wanted to show you something, and I know that this, I like, it's one of those things where you know in the back of your mind that using 2 different crochet hooks will produce different results. This is a 4.0 tapered hook. And this is a 4.0 inline hook. It's a Susan Bates. You see that hook? This is also a 4.0. They produced very different results. Should have known better, but look at the size of this granny square made with the tapered. Like boy hooks are like tapered. And then look at this one, or even this one. I don't think the yarn is that different, excuse me, from color to color to create such a big difference. It's also very drapey. This is not as drapey. You can feel it. It's very tight. Now, I crochet tight, so I'm wondering if the cure for my crochet, being so tight as it is, maybe the cure is to stick with inline. It slows me down, that's for sure. Inline is very slow for me. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the granny square up to the point where the last video leaves off. So if you don't know how to do that, or you don't have a granny square already made up to that point, it's like a 4-inch granny square. But it's like fancy shells, so I'll link it below. So I'm going to do this, and you go to that video if you don't have it already made, and I will meet you back with our finished 4-inch square, and we'll move on to the bigger sizes. Okay, so I have finished the square up to the point of the last video, and I did the slip stitch. I'm not going to cut it. I'm just going to turn it after doing that slip stitch. Okay, and so on this square right here, we're in one of these large sections right here. All right, so go into the space right here under that chain stitch and just do a slip stitch, and then do 3 chains, and then go into the space just before your corner. Make 3 chains, go into the corner, make 3 chains, go into the next space, go into the chain 1 space at the end of that long extended shell. 3 chains, and go into not this one right here, but into this space where the actual first chain 1 space is on that shell. Three chains into the space before your corner. Into your corner. So just do that all the way around, and I'll meet you back. Okay, so I've come around to the end here. I'm going to do my last 3 chains over the middle space, and I'm going to slip stitch into the top of that slip stitch that we made when we turned our work and did the first slip stitch. Okay, now turn your work. Now you're going to start by either doing a slip stitch and 3 chains, or like I'd like to do is the stacked single crochets. Okay, and this will count as your first double crochet. And you want to do 6 double crochets after your initial either 3 chain or stacked single crochets. So you'll have a total of 7 stitches to work into at the top here, and you just count them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So we need 1 more. Okay, then we're just going to do single crochet into the next loop. Okay, so here is our middle turning corner. I'm sorry, the corner. And these 2 loops, you're just going to do 3 chains, single crochet into the first one over the corner, 3 chains, single crochet into the next one. See? It's just more chain loops going over and then into this one. Okay, that'll get us around to our next shell, which will be 7 double crochets. Do not count these chain loops, because once you've started to put your double crochets in there, it's really easy to forget that this is not a double crochet. This first one is an actual part of the chain loop here. So don't count that as one of your 7 double crochets. You want to make sure you get your 7 in. Okay, so don't count that one. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 1 more for 7. And then go into that chain 3 space next to you, next to your shell, and do a single crochet. Now we're going to do 4 chain 3 loops till we get over to the side. And then we will put another 7 double crochets into this middle loop. Another 4 chain 3 loops going around till we get to the middle, and we do 7 double crochets in a shell in the middle one, and then 4 double crochets, and I'll meet you back when we get to here. Okay, so we've come around to the last chain 3, and we're in the middle of our side. So I did my single crochet, tighten it down, going to the top of the first stitch, and I just slip stitched. Okay, so there's your first set of shells right here. Now we're going to turn our work, and we're off the edge of this shell, and here's our first space. We're going to slip stitch into the space, and I like to do 2 here. For some reason it's a little stretched. You don't have to do 2, you could just do 1, it's fine. Now we're going to do 7 double crochets into this corner space. Just 7 double crochets, one after the other. we're making the base of the shell on the corner. Okay, remember, don't count your chain 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This will be 7. And if you have to, you can just slide these down a little bit to make room if you are running out of room on your chain 3. Now just do a single crochet into the next chain 3 space. Okay, so now here we're going to create the lacy part of the shells. So I'm going to do no space or anything, just go straight to a double crochet for the first spoke, and then do a chain to make that space. Now remember, this is on the side, so you don't make the V-stitch. Okay, this is the middle. We don't do 2 chains and then do a double crochet into the same space. This is the side. This is the corner right here. So over here and over here, this is where we will eventually make the V-stitches. But in the sides that we're doing right now, the lacy part, the second level of the shell, just go across without putting any V-stitches in. You don't need the points on the sides. Just do a double crochet and a single crochet. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so I made a mistake. I did a single crochet on that last one. You don't make the space there. You just let it snuggle down next to your chain 3. These two are close. The first and the last double crochet. Well, actually this is the first double crochet and that's your chain 3, so they snuggle. Okay, so now we're going to do a shell, a base, which is 7 double crochets in this chain 3 space. Okay, so this is where we ended up. And now we're making a double crochet shell, a 7 double crochet shell right here. It's the base of our lacy shell. Evan is just hungry all the time. So he cries a lot because I give him snacks. And now he's gotten into the habit of crying every time I'm in here and not sleeping. And sometimes even when I'm sleeping. He's like, time for snacks. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, and we'll snuggle it down. And go straight into your double crochet into the next. Don't do it here in this chain 3 space. Do it into the first double crochet. Okay, so these two are snuggled. No space. Now the rest of these double crochets have a chain space in between them. Single crochet, double crochet. Single crochet, double crochet. double crochet. Now snuggle it down, no single crochet in between. Okay, now you're going to do your 7 shells, then you do the lacy side, you do your 7 double crochet shell, and then you do your lacy side, and I'll meet you when we get over here, right here, right there. I'll meet you back. Okay, so I've come around to the end, and we have these 2 slip stitches that we did into that chain 3. We're going to take our shells, no single crochet, it's just the end of the lacy part of the shell on the side, so there's no V-stitch in the middle. So anyway, this lacy shells goes right into the top of the 2nd slip stitch, or the only slip stitch, depending on what you ended up doing to get into that space. Okay, now we're going to turn it. So we're going to do single crochets. So you've got your loop, you go into the space in the next stitch. You have 2 loops, yarn over and pull through 2, and you've got your single crochet. Okay, and now you want to go into the space over and completely around that chain. Then you go into the double crochet that's next, and you just do a single crochet in the top of that double crochet. Just go around, and the reason why I just completely go around that chain stitch is because trying to get your hook into a chain stitch is a nightmare to me, and it doesn't really make that much difference to the overall look, the finished look. Honestly, I think it looks better because it makes those spaces really stand out. Now here's our snuggle spot, and we stop on that last double crochet. We don't go into this joining corner here. It's where we had locked down that single crochet onto the chain 3 space. This is where we start our corner lacy second layer of the shell, and it is 3 double crochets interspersed with 3 single crochets. I'm sorry, chains. Okay, and 1 more double crochet, and then you do 2 chains here for that corner, and you go back into the same space. Okay, and I like to call this the uphill, and this is a snuggly, technically it's a snuggle space, because there is no single chain right there. There's no chain right there. It just went from this single crochet into this double crochet, and then the chain space, double crochet, chain space, double crochet, chain space, and then here we have 2 chains, and we're back into the same stitch to make a V stitch right here. Now we're going downhill, and these are all single crochet, double crochet into these 3 spaces right here. The hardest part about this pattern is remembering where your where your chains are and where the chains aren't. It's not the end of the world if you accidentally put a chain in where it's supposed to be all snuggly. It's not the end of the world. Okay, so then I'm going to put a single crochet into this first chain 1 space between these double crochets, not in the snuggly space, right there. Just go right around into the space. Now you do your single crochets across the top, alternating into the space and at the top of the double crochets, just for ease. I know I want to do 3 chain spaces around here, but this is like next to the last row, so it's not necessary for more spaces. I guess if you wanted to continue and keep making this bigger and bigger and bigger, you could do it like that, I guess, you know? But I'm not doing that, so. Okay, so here we're at the end. This is the single crochet that went into the chain stitch, so we leave that alone. We make a double crochet into the next double crochet space. It's the first one in our shell. Then we do the chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. And I often have to check and make sure. Snuggly space, 1, 2, 3. Okay, and this one is 1, 2, 3. So this is our 2 chain space, double crochet back into the same space to make a V-stitch. That's your corner. Then you do a single crochet, double crochet going downhill. And if you see where I anchor, I often anchor right at the base of the stitch. It helps keeping the stitches from getting too stretched out, and it stabilizes it so you can crochet a little easier. I don't know if it's faster. Here's the snuggly space, and here's the next, or the first chain 1 space. Go ahead and single crochet into that, and then single crochet across, alternating with your space, chain 1 spaces and your double crochets. Okay, so when you want to continue on all the way around until you get to where you started, which is right here. You can tell because there's the turning loop right there. I will meet you back. Okay, so I've come around to the end. Here's my turning loop. It's just that little extra loop that goes from the back to the front. And I'm going to go into that first single crochet, tighten everything down, and I'm just going to do a slip stitch. Okay, now we could end here, but I have this need for my corners to be bigger than my sides. So I'm going around one more time. As you can see, there is one more row to go, and it's just single crochets over our corners, and then it's slip stitches over the sides. Single crochets and slip stitches. Single crochets and slip stitches. Go all the way around, and I'll do a little bit with you. Go into the top of the double crochet. Make your single crochet, and then into the space, single crochet. Now her corners are a little different. We're going to do 3. Oh, and this is something else I do differently. I actually skip this double crochet right here because this string, this one part of the stitch just hangs in the middle of my corners and I don't like it. So instead of going into this double crochet, I just skip it and I go into the space and I do 3 double crochets. I'm sorry, 3 single crochets into this space. That's my corner. Okay, but I skip it because I liked the way this single crochet kind of ropes that loop back. If I were to go into it and then do 3, it would make this stick out, this 1/2 of the double crochet, and I don't like that. So I kind of break the rule there just so that it looks like a neater space without that, you know, one little yarn just like hanging out in there. And then I just skip this one. I skip this one stitch, and I go into the next, and I do a slip stitch. And just make sure they're loose. And since I'm using my Susan Bates inline hook, I think it makes things a little easier because it doesn't get a chance to tighten up. It stays, you know, the same size all along the whole crochet hook. But for some reason I'm having trouble with this one. Okay, and I'm also in the tops of the stitches. I'm not going into the spaces. It's, you know, the single crochets on the top here make it very easy to do your slip stitches. Now we get to this last one, and it dips down. Now we're going to do single crochets. Okay, so you go from slip stitches on the sides to single crochets on the corners. And you remember, when you do this, you just go into the space. Don't bother trying to get that single crochet into the chain. Just go into the chain space. It makes it so much easier. Oh, and when you're on the corner, don't put your single crochet into that double crochet. Just skip it. Don't put a single crochet into the top of this. Put 3 single crochets in your corner space. And it just looks a lot neater in the corner. I think I told you about that over here. Okay, so continue doing single crochets, slip stitches on the sides, single crochets on your corners, slip stitches on the sides, single crochets, slip stitches, and then I'll meet you back when we get here. This is the last one. I'm going to just do a slip stitch over the turning chain right here. Just going to pull that through. And turn it over. Okay. So you know you did your slip stitches on the sides because they curl a little bit towards the front. I like to use this as the front. And here we can fit it onto this one. Yep. It looks like it's pretty good size. And we put 1 row of single crochets around the whole edge with the neutral color, and then I just leave a gap in these little dips, little 3 chain gap. I chain 3, but I leave four stitches as a gap. 4 stitches, 2 on this side and 2 on that side of the little divot. Okay. So you let me know if you want me to make a quick video about putting on the neutral edging that further flattens out these corners. You can put your squares together however you like, but I'm doing this to create a neutral buffer so that when I put them together, there'll be this neutral throughout. I hope you enjoyed this, and please like, share, and subscribe, and crochet your way today because it's the only time we have. I'm going to turn my work, and we are in this area right here.